We are back hunting for cheap steelbooks, Steelbook Hunting in CEX, and in this episode I want to prove the power of the ask. Hello again folks, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Steelbook Hunting in CEX, the series in which every episode I hit up 2 CEX stores in order to find cheap steelbook bangers to add to my ever-growing collection. And one of the best ways to find these steelbooks is through the power of the ask. More often than not, these steelbooks may not be on the shelves, so if you visit a CEX store, make sure every time you ask at the till if they have any hidden steelbook bangers. Just before we head out on a steelbook hunt, I want to remind you folks, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. If you want to go above and beyond and support me even more on my game hunting adventure, please consider becoming a supporter over on Patreon. It's just £1 a month and you get loads of bonus content, including up-to-date eBay listings for steelbook bangers. Here we go then, back on the road for a brand new episode of Steelbook Hunting in CEX. And the first CEX store we are hitting up this time is in the very, very picturesque city of Lincoln. And I'm really hoping we can start this episode with a bang, as this CEX looked absolutely incredible. And let's jump straight into a section which isn't really synonymous with steelbooks just yet. That's because most of the time when I'm steelbook hunting in CEX, I'm looking for the bargains. And just because the PlayStation 5 hasn't been out too long, that means it isn't very easy to find those bargain steelbooks. And honestly, I don't think there's a great number of steelbooks which have been released for the PlayStation 5, but I've said before in this series, I'm a patient man, and trust me, in the future there'll be more steelbooks for the PlayStation 5, and even better, they'll become cheaper. So far in this series, we've discovered, unlike the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 4 is the most likely section to find steelbooks. It just seems there is so many steelbooks that have been released for the PlayStation 5, and more often than not, you can get these at absolute bargain prices. But of course, when you're a steelbook hunting in CEX, the hardest part is finding them. But we've hit our first steal here with Resident Evil 4. Now, you may be thinking, Dad, you're a massive Resident Evil fan, of course you're going to pick that one up. Well, sadly, I am holding out for the PlayStation 5 version, so I did pass on this one. Continuing on in the PlayStation 4 section, and once again, we strike steel. So here we have the Street Fighter Steelbook, and you may be thinking once again, Dad, of course you're going to pick this one up. Look at it, it's an absolutely beautiful Steelbook. Well, here's the thing, this Steelbook is actually from the special edition of Street Fighter, and honestly, for the price, I'm very tempted to hold out and pick up the collector's edition of this game, but again, most probably for the PlayStation 5. Moving on from PlayStation to Xbox and the Xbox Series X section, which is very similar to the PlayStation 5 section, but here is a steelbook which is very common and also very, very good looking, and most importantly, very cheap. Back for Blood, one of the best looking steelbooks, you'll just have to take my word for that one, that I've ever seen. I've picked it up multiple times in this series. It is an absolute bargain at just around £5. It was a real shame with how small the Xbox One section was here in Lincoln CEX, because here's the thing. For me personally, I have the most steelbooks in my collection for the Xbox One, and generally I was hoping to add to that collection, but unfortunately this time we did strike out steelbook hunting in the Xbox One section, but fear not, we've still got a few places to hunt. Back to PlayStation and into the PlayStation 3 section, and I'm worried over the coming years it is going to get very, very hard to find steelbooks for the PlayStation 3. Now, when I first started steelbook collecting about 2 or 3 years ago, it was fairly common to find PlayStation 3 steelbooks, but it does seem that these are becoming a thing of the past. The value of these is slowly creeping up, and if the Xbox 360 is anything to go by, these prices could very soon spike very hard. And speaking of the Xbox 360, here we have what I believe is the most common steelbook in the entire world, BioShock for the Xbox 360. Now, I've said all along in this series, more often than not, CEX charge the same amount for the steelbook as they do the standard version of the game. But it seems, especially the Xbox 360, CEX are getting smart to this. So, in the case of the BioShock steelbook and this steelbook right here, Dead Rising, they are now listed separately on the CEX app and website. They are listed as the tin edition, and the prices of these are a lot more than the standard version of the game. Now, this seems to be really affecting Xbox 360 at the moment, but I wonder and honestly fear if in the future this will spread to other consoles. So my advice would be grab these steelbooks while you can and grab these bargains while you still can. It was starting to look like we were going to strike out steelbook hunting here in Lincoln CEX until I spotted this on the way out. Company of Heroes free for the Xbox Series X. But here's the thing, I already own this for the PlayStation 5. And this is why it's always important to ask at the counter if they have any more steelbooks, as the friendly cashier presented this to me. Forspoken steelbook for the PlayStation 5. One which I was missing for my collection. You won't believe the price on this one. The next store we are visiting, Steelbook Hunting in CEX, is Kings Lynn. Now, the eagle-eyed among you may remember that I've actually visited this store before, Steelbook Hunting in CEX, but I have said historically this is one of my favourite CEX stores in the entire world. And fair play, I wasn't going to film a steelbook hunt on my last visit, but while I was looking around these shelves, I noticed there was quite an abundance of steelbooks. So I thought, do you know what? Let's double dip. Let's steelbook hunt once again here in Kings Lynn, because one of these sections really impressed me. And there's a lot to talk about one of these sections here. But starting off in the Xbox One section, it's not too great. But Steelbook Hunting in CEX is all about perseverance, so it doesn't appear like there's going to be any steelbooks here in the Xbox One section, but you never know when a wild steelbook may appear, and it appears that one may appear here in the Xbox Series X section with Dragon's Dogma 2. But like I said earlier, I am a patient man. At the moment, this game is fairly newly released, it's still £40, and I will wait for this steelbook to drop in value. This is a game I'm very excited to play, and, well, just check out that steelbook. Thing of beauty. Like buses, you find steelbooks and another one appears. So right at the bottom here was the steelbook for 13 and also Yakuza Like a Dragon. Two very affordable steelbooks. And these are the exact kind of steelbooks I love to find in CEX. The cheap bangers, which are exactly the same as the standard version of the game. And for the price, that 13 steelbook is absolutely incredible. The Xbox One and Xbox Series X section did not disappoint then. There were some absolutely amazing steelbooks for some pretty decent prices, especially when it came to 13 and Dragon's Dogma. But I've said it before, the PlayStation 4 section is normally the best place to find steelbooks. So let's hope this steelbook roller coaster carries on here in the PlayStation 4 section. This was a fairly sizable section. You can see there is a lot of games here. And more importantly, most of these are facing forward, which normally makes it easier to find steelbooks. But one of the hardest things when you're steelbook hunting in CEX is slipcases. As I always presume, most of the time incorrectly, there could be a steelbook hiding underneath that slipcase. And here's the thing. If there's a slipcase, yes, I'm going to pick it up on a steelbook. If it's a steelbook which I know has a slipcase and the slipcase is missing, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it. Coming to the end of the PlayStation 4 section, and it isn't looking too good. We haven't managed to strike steel yet, and we have seen a lot of slipcases, which seem to keep catching me slipping, like this one. Once again, no steelbook in there. Remember, some CEX stores do keep their steelbooks on the shelf behind the counter, so it's always worth an ask. But unfortunately, this time in the PlayStation 4 section, it doesn't look like we're going to have much luck, which was a real shame. Once again, it's mainly slipcases catching me slipping. On to the PlayStation 5 section, we finally managed to strike steel with a steelbook which I see all the time and already have in my collection, Company of Heroes free. Now this is interesting, so this is a slipcase which I know has a steelbook, but the steelbook is not on the shelf, it must be behind the counter. I'm always surprised that this copy of Elden Ring doesn't come with a steelbook, because that would be really cool. Some more slipcases here, but unfortunately, even here in the PlayStation 5 section, it doesn't seem like we're going to find any more steelbooks, but we did manage to find a copy of Forspoken, which randomly I now need a disc for. Next up, we're on to the PlayStation 3 section, and like I said earlier in this video, I used to find PlayStation 3 steelbooks all the time, but it definitely feels like in the past year it's got very rare to find steelbooks for the PlayStation 3, and sadly, as I visit CEX stores all around the country, it definitely seems like the PlayStation 3 section is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, let me know in the comments down below. I seem to find that in every CEX store, the Xbox 360 section absolutely dwarfs the PlayStation 3 section. It's normally a lot bigger, and for this series normally has more steelbooks, especially of the case here in Kings Lynn CEX, because this store has the largest selection of Xbox 360 games, or had, of any CEX store in the whole of the UK. So let's hope in our final section we manage finally to strike steel. Our final chance to strike steel here in Kings Lynn, and look who we find instantly in the Xbox 360 section, the BioShock Tin Edition. And random fact about this steelbook: this steelbook is one of the steelbooks which I seem to find all of the time which is rusty, which is a real fear for steelbook collectors everywhere. Rust. So please everyone, take care of your steelbooks. Now, I'm hopeful we're going to strike steel here because, like I said, this was, at the time of my visiting, the largest Xbox 360 section in any CEX store in the whole of the UK, which, by laws of averages, should mean we should manage to find some steelbooks. But it does seem that laws were made to be broken, and over halfway through this Xbox 360 section, we've only managed to find one steelbook. And I was starting to worry. Here we are in the end section, coming to the end, but I had faith. I let the force guide me to a steelbook, and this is a steelbook I've been looking for a very long while. And as a Star Wars fan, I was super happy to find this steelbook for Star Wars The Force Awakens. Absolutely beautiful, and just £4. This is the exact kind of steelbook which I love to find in CX, and in the future is only going to get harder and harder to find. And then it seemed like the floodgates were open. Straight away we are finding another steelbook, Stranglehold Collector's Edition, which once again is listed as a separate game on the CEX app and website, so definitely one to keep an eye out for, but at least that way you can order this one online. And finally here at Kings Lynn we have the second most common steelbook in the entire world, Turok for the Xbox 360, which sadly once again now does have a separate listing as a tin edition, but once again remember, because it's listed on the CEX website and app, you can now order a copy rather than hunting in CX. But honestly, where's the fun in that? That was our steelbook hunt for today then, folks. It was a bit hit and miss, and it does seem that things are changing steelbook hunting in CX, but for today, let's take it back to the games room for the pickups. Here we are then, back in the games room from our steelbook hunt in 2 more CEX stores, and today was a tough one. Yes, there was some steelbooks, but because my collection is growing bigger and bigger, a lot of these are already in my collection. And while there was some more expensive steelbooks, these are newer released games. And I've said it before in this series, I'm a patient man. I can wait for these steelbooks to go down in price. And our first store we visited, Lincoln, it seemed like it was going to be a write-off. It didn't seem like we were going to find any steelbooks which I needed for the collection, until I went up to the till to pay for some other games, and I used the power of the ask. I asked, do you have any other steelbooks in stock? And they said, yes, we do. They brought me this steelbook right here, Forspoken for the PlayStation 5. And now this is a game I have not played. I have heard some fairly negative things about this game. The game which is not inside this steelbook. So, the member of staff who found this steelbook said somebody bought it in with a load of games they traded in. They didn't want it. CX accepted it. Of course, they can't sell it because it doesn't have a game. So I got this steelbook for free, along with the other bits I bought in store, which was an absolute incredible way to finish what could have been a bit of a disaster of a steelbook hunt, and it goes to show the power of the ask. The second store we visited this time was a store which we have visited before, but upon visiting there was so many steelbooks we just had to double dip and go again. And that store was Kings Lynn CEX, and again, there was a lot of steelbooks, but a lot of these we already had in the collection. And again, a lot of these were new release games, which I will grab further down the line. But I did manage to find a steelbook which I've never seen before. But as a Star Wars fan, I had to grab this one right here, because just look at it. And for £4, this Star Wars Force Unleashed steelbook is a thing of absolute beauty. And here's the thing, with the state of Xbox 360 collecting at the moment, steelbooks like this are going to get harder and harder to find. So as soon as I saw this one, I knew I had to grab it. But the story doesn't end there, folks. Traditionally in this series, every episode we hit up 2 CEX stores, but this time we are hitting up a third CEX store. More specifically, my local CEX store here in the fine city of Norwich. That's because locally I've been on a real run of bad luck. Now these are the kind of bits you don't see in these videos. The visits where I go to CEX and find nothing, or more specifically when I have bad luck and take what should be a steelbook case up to the counter and they can't find it. But this time I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you some of the hunts that failed, but also to prove the power of the ask. Here we are then at my local CEX store here in the fine city of Norwich, and one of the many things I love about my local branch is that they use these replacement cases on the shelf to let you know they have a steelbook in stock. But unfortunately when I took this case up to the counter they couldn't find the steelbook in question, but with the power of the ask and you will receive. Unfortunately then, on my visit to my local CEX store here in the fine city of Norwich, I wasn't able to pick up the steelbook version of Gran Turismo Sport. But using the power of the ask, I was still able to pick up 2 brand new steelbooks for my collection, including this first steelbook, which is the cheapest steelbook I've ever picked up anywhere. I picked up this copy of FIFA for the PlayStation 4 for just 50p. Yes, it is just FIFA 16, but it is a steelbook for just 50p with the game, and goes to show the power of the ask. But fear not, we have one more steelbook which is slightly more exciting than FIFA. And that is this steelbook right here, Chivalry 2 for the Xbox One. Now this is a game which actually looks really exciting, and this steelbook was just £4 because remember, more often than not CEX charge the same price for the steelbook version of a game that they do for the standard version, and this is a pretty good looking steelbook, and yeah, for £4 I'm really excited to jump into this one. Now, of course, this series is called Steelbook Hunting in CEX, but I couldn't resist just showing you this pickup from my local recycling centre because this was an absolute bargain. 007 Quantum of Solace in this absolutely beautiful steelbook for just £1 because, honestly, the steelbook hunt never stops regardless of where I'm hunting. That's right, folks. Whilst this is not a CEX steelbook find, I could not resist picking up this copy of Quantum of Solace for the PlayStation 3 for just £1 in my local recycling centre. Now, if this was sold in CEX, it would have been sold for £3.50, so £1 is an absolute bargain. And this is a steelbook I've never seen in CEX, so I was very happy to find this, especially for just £1. We have one final steelbook find from CEX this time. Now this one wasn't found by myself, it was found by fan of the channel and fellow YouTuber Katie from Bricks and Gaming, so please go and check out their channel. So they hit me up on Instagram to ask if I wanted them to pick up this steelbook for my collection from their local CEX store. I sent payment and they stuck it in the post for myself. Now this is a steelbook I've been looking for a very long while, and this one is a bit of an exception to the rule, because this steelbook right here is Alone in the Dark, and you can see on the front of this game it does say Alone in the Dark Tin Edition. Now this is one of the very few steelbooks which CEX have a separate listing for, and more we are seeing this for more and more Xbox 360 steelbooks. So the time to grab these is now, so thank you to Katie for grabbing this one for me. It is much appreciated, as I think in the future this one is going to be very hard to find. There we have it then, folks. 6 amazing steelbooks to add to my ever-growing collection thanks to CEX, the power of the ask, you amazing fans, and my local recycling centre. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and join me next time to find out if we strike out or strike steel steelbook hunting in CEX. See you out soon!